And welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on May 19th, 2024 at approximately 4:30 p.m. PST. Now, I've returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I built myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the same philosophies I guide virtually every movement I make by. Now, with this in mind, I know these tools will work for you because they continue to work for me and have literally worked for thousands of people over the years, with varying degrees of success, depending on their own personal efforts. Now, before we get into things today, we have Eternity Eternally in with the Gold. How you doing, Eternity? Glad you could join us. Hopefully things are taking a turn for the better for you. And we have Steve Knox. You are in with the Silver. How's it going there? The funny thing is we have a choice to make. All of us do. Okay. And, I want to give a special hats off to LA Moon and Storm in the chat room. They are the moderators that, quite frankly, managed to help stop me from having another heart attack due to stress I don't require. Now, we're looking at leadership here. Okay. Specifically, the leadership and the impact of the Moguls. Okay, and that's not Muggles, that's Moguls. The big industries, the so-called world leaders on the political stage, the big corporations that are purportedly making money hand over fist. But what is the message they're sending out? Okay, and for those of you that are striving to deliberately become a going concern, what image are you aiming and putting out? Now, I've already told people I am building an empire, and that is just the way that's going to go. Joe, you are in with the bronze. Glad you could join us. Welcome aboard. The neat part about it, when I look at what we've got, the world is a phenomenal setup. Nathan, welcome aboard. You are in with honorable mention. And absolutely, let's face it, as we've had to tell people, work has to come. It's got to be personal health, family, work, then your entertainment. Okay. And as you can tell, my throat is playing havoc, so we'll see how that goes. Why it's seizing up today, I don't know. But we'll play it by ear, and if I find it's getting too rough, I'll end up pulling the plug. But the first thing we look at, take a look at the countries that are called so-called first world. Now, I'm going to ask you, okay, and it's just something to think about. People call it first world country. I only hear about first world and third world. I have no idea what a second world country is. All I know is if you're on this planet, you're a first world country, a first world community. Because this is, in my opinion, our first world. But let me ask you this. If we are dealing with a country that is claiming to be a world leader, okay, take a look at the people inside it. Now, there's a theory that goes, you're only as strong as your weakest link. Now, what I've noticed, it's just a personal observation on my part. Okay, it's just a personal observation on my part. But if you're a world leader, does it not make sense that you should be taking care of the people in your own country? If you're a community leader, take care of your community. Now, I will tell you, with my other half, I told her point blank, I take care of me first. Not because of the fact I'm better than anybody, but because of the fact that if you do not take care of yourself first, you're not going to be in a good position you're not going to be in a good position to take care of anybody else. Now, with Nathan in the room here, absolutely drop in, give him a listen, hear what he has to say. If you like what he says, give him a thumbs up. Do subscribe to the channel and share the daylights out of the thing. It is this connection, this sharing of links that is going to help turn this world around. Joseph, how you doing? I'm glad you could join us. Yeah, I'm looking at that there, Joe. Nathan's panel last night was phenomenally entertaining. I thoroughly enjoyed it. There was stuff I cannot bring around, I cannot deal with in public yet. In time, maybe. But there were a lot of really intelligent questions that were brought up. Now, when we look at the major, we'll take a look at so-called first world countries first. Okay. And what I mean by that is if we're looking at the countries that are supposed to be world leaders, I go back a decade, okay, and you looked around, and what I found was if you found one person in 10 that were heavily overweight, as Storm pointed out just before the show, whether you're overweight depends on two factors, okay, your body type, and your own metabolic rate. Maybe you look overweight, maybe you are in fact healthy, as in you're not getting sick all the time, you're not always in pain. To me, this is the marker. Okay. But a decade ago, you'd find one person that wasn't in what they considered good shape. In today's world, when I went down to Reno, I found a good 90% of the people were clearly not doing well. They did not have the energy or the flexibility, or for that matter, the temperament to qualify as near as I can figure, and it's only my opinion, I agree. Okay. But when I see somebody that is moving slowly because of the fact that they just cannot physically move faster, and they look like they're struggling, this does not indicate a healthy setup. And like I said, if the weakest person in the area if you're only as strong as your weakest link, then when you're looking at people that are consistently and perpetually unhealthy, okay, and having problems, then it might be time to look at it. But what I'm seeing with these top line countries is they're not dealing with it. I don't know about down in the States per se, but from what I gather up here in Canada, there's a lot of drugs that are still illegal. And now they're looking at legalizing them. They're providing what are currently illegal drugs. They're providing them free of charge to people. And yet, when you look at cancer, diabetes, thyroid complications, arthritis, these people that are suffering from these medical problems are having to pay through the nose. Now, is this what you consider good leadership? You take a look at all the growth going on. And I mean, as far as economic growth. If the economy is actually growing and these leaders are doing what the system is laid out, and if you look at the systems are laid out well. But if the majority of the financial wealth is sitting with a few people, you might have a problem. The thing I found was this. When we, simply put, you've got a choice. Regardless of what the media says, regardless of what the politicians tell you, or the major moguls in the advertising, you have a choice. You can follow what they're telling you, or you can treat people the way you desire to be treated. Now, I'm not the one to tell you what you have to do, but I am the one to stand up. I've came to the conclusion, if I'm going to tell you I'm building an empire, I've taken it on myself to say, I'm going to step out of the shadows, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tell you this is what's necessary. Don't do what I tell you, don't do what I say. Okay. Whatever you do, don't just take my word for it. Do your own research. Okay. Now, I will tell you, half the stuff I do is just absolutely bizarre where it comes to modern medicine. And I wouldn't recommend you jump on that. But if you have to be working with a doctor and it's working for you, this is fantastic. Renee, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I've got a whole bunch of stuff that I'm working on right now in order to get it moved around. But I'm laying out literally the plan that I've got for my empire to grow. And I will be doing exactly what I said. I'm going to take as many people with me as I can. Because everybody I talk to says the same thing. It's lonely at the top. Okay. Well, I figure the only solution there, if it's lonely at the top, take people with you. You won't be lonely when you get there. Take people you like. Now, here's the kicker. Okay. I absolutely will take ideas from people. When people say we've got to look at this. Absolutely. Thing is, I've got more patience than brains sometimes. And I've got myself stuck in this idea of I desire things to fall into place and to happen one step at a time. Some people have already approached me and told me it's not growing fast enough. And part of me agrees. Okay. I mean, we are right now at 618 subscribers. Now, here's the thing. I hear about these people that within a year or two are already at, thousands of subscribers. But I watch what they're talking about and I'm going like, why are you following that? Okay. So many people sit here in front of a computer and they will tell you, Christine, how you doing? Glad you could join us. They will tell you the world is coming to an end. We have major problems. Okay, follow me and I'll tell you. Just wait till the end of the video. I'll give you the keys to stop things. And Joe goes, I stopped watching the local news morning, afternoon, and evening, except for the weather. Yeah, I don't blame you there. I've actually listened to weather reports periodically, but most of the time, what I find happens is you listen to a weather report, and I've literally looked out the window. I watched it when I listened to the weather report. It goes 0% chance of rain. Looking out the window, it's pouring. Now, I don't know how you can screw that up. I find the horizon method of telling the weather is easiest. You walk out, look out the window, look at your horizon, figure out which way the clouds are moving, and take a look at the shape of them. In about 3 or 4 hours, that's your weather. Now, I will tell you, I do watch on my phone to see what the temperature is going to be like before I head out. Because I can't tell the temperature by looking out the window. Although I seem to recall back in the 70s, we had a weather rock that was available. Now, lots of people bought into it, and they bought a weather rock. Now, it was great. If you couldn't see, you hung it outside your window, so it was underneath an awning, but you hung it outside the window. If it was wet, it was raining. If it was wet, it was raining. If it was covered in white stuff, it was snowing. If you couldn't see it, it was night. And I'm looking at this going, why would you pay $5 for something that with a shoestring and a rock? You've got the same thing. You know, LA, I talked to Weatherman one day, and he says, I love my job. I said, that's fantastic. I said, I got to ask you, what is your job? He says, technically, I'm a consultant. But he says, the reality is I'm a weatherman. With that in mind, he goes, it's the only consultancy job in existence that I can be wrong 100% of the time and still be employed. Yeah, Christine, I remember that too, back around the 400, 500 mark. We are make it to the 1,000. I just don't know when. But what I have come to the understanding of is as long as we keep getting this message out to people, we can make a difference in this world regardless of what's going on. Now, I do encourage you, take a look at, you desire your neighborhood to improve. Couple of important factors. The companies that are out there that are the big companies. Okay, you get to figure out what you consider a big company. But ask yourself this. Are they treating their customers decently? And, yes, you may be able to get it cheaper. But understand, if you're going to a major corporation and you're buying your stuff from them, that money is going elsewhere. It'll go back to their head office. I appreciate that, Christine. Christine's just saying, do more interviews and hopefully the chatters will follow you. I encourage them to when you're on SOR. I really do appreciate that. And this is why I say I'm quite willing to go on other shows. Absolutely. The reality is I get very few invitations. And I look at it going, and I do it sort of tongue in cheek. I make everybody happy. Some people by showing up, most of them by leaving. I know I've got a very solid lock on my own head on the way I desire things to go. And that's what I'm working towards. But it's people like you guys in this room that are providing a microcosm of what the world can be. I keep watching people every now and again. We get somebody wandering in here, and you gotta wonder what they've got going on in their life. And it's not just my chat room. It's not just our chat room here. It is everywhere. But you gotta ask, how bad is your life that you have to go into somebody else's house and go, let's disturb it or let's create a problem. Fortunately, I've got phenomenal moderators here that stop a lot of that problem. Steve, how you doing? I don't know if I saw you come in earlier, but welcome aboard. In my opinion, if you're a leader, your job is not to make more money than everybody on the planet. Your job is to guide other people, to help them land on their feet. Okay, and I know that is completely backwards to a lot of people's outlook. Okay, that's just the reality of it. One of the things, and this is literally a comment to Nathan. Okay, we've got a real big issue to turn around and that we've got to discuss with you and bring you up to speed on. I told you last night on your stream that, yes, I've got some information. It is time, I've been told, to pass it on to you, but we'll have to do that when you're ready. Oh, there we go. Yeah, well, Christine, that comes from a long time ago. What do we got here? Joseph's going, get involved, advocate for policy changes, build community support, and promote education to address funding disparities in addiction and illness treatment. You know, honestly, I agree with you there, Joseph. What I have found with a lot of counselors, and purportedly really good ones, I've dealt with a lot of their patients. And the reality is, from what I've borne witness to, many of them spend so much time going, how do you feel about what you went through? Without providing direct guidance on how to move forward. Dean Pal, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day is going well. You know, the reality is I have come to the understanding there is no way, physically speaking, I literally cannot think like other people. Okay, it is physically impossible. 30 years ago, it was discovered by my shrink at the time that there were only 6 people that he was aware of that had the same configuration I did, and 5 of those were locked up because they couldn't cope with the world at all. I have trouble coping with the world with watching the way people treat each other. Okay, to me, it's simple. Treat others as you desire to be treated. You know, you've got to be true to yourself first. Okay, because if you're not true to yourself, you are going to have problems. This has been shown by thousands of other people that have tried it. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. You know, also this neat little idea of energy out, energy in. What you put out is what you're drawing back to you. You desire to be treated well, treat the people around you properly. Treat them in a way you would appreciate being treated. Now, I grew up, well, I'll use that term a little loosely. I got older working in the hospitality industry. And that's where it stands with me, is I look at the way people treat the workers in the industry, and I'm going, how can you treat these people so poorly? I mean, I was in a fast food restaurant one day, and they were cooking and what have you, obviously. And the chap I was sitting with, he goes, man, I am never coming back to a fast food restaurant. Take a look at the way they treat the food. You know, this is what they're serving. It says, you don't desire to go to a fast food, no problem. I said, but I recommend you stay out of restaurants altogether. Because at least in fast food, you can see what they're up to. In the restaurants, I have seen people do things that are absolutely appalling, and quite frankly, the employee should be fired on the spot. You know, one of the things I am looking at, one of the things I am striving to drive home is if we desire this world to change for the better, the first thing we've got to do is start treating ourselves in a decent fashion. Okay, you've got to really look at yourself. Hey, Ness, how you doing? Glad you could join us. You know, just to be clear, I mean, absolutely welcome aboard. Okay, if you look at the top of the chat room, you'll see a list of the simple rules that we've got that apply to everybody, moderators included. Okay, and myself for that matter. We try and keep this place safe for everybody because that's what I desire. Okay, I've seen places where you go into chat rooms and we end up with bullies. You know, there are bullies in there. There's bullies all over the place. I don't have a lot of use for them. Of course, if you slice them thin enough, you might be and then dry, and you might get decent shingles. I don't know if that'll work. Probably waterproof. But, one other quick little thing there, Ness. If you've got a question in any field, even if it isn't in the field in which we're talking right now, absolutely put the question in the chat room, preferably in all caps, at least partial caps, or a wavy hand, just so I can spot the questions. Now, there's no question that Ellie Moon and Storm really work hard to try and keep things balanced. And if I miss a question, they've been known to pop one up and say, hey, you missed this one. Can we deal with it? I do my best, but I am not perfect at it by any functional stretch. Now, when we start looking at the big moguls, okay, I did a little bit of poking around. Turns out, just for instance, the claim is diamonds are a girl's best friend. Well, I'm telling you, diamonds seem to be one of the most common rocks on the planet. Okay, just about second only to granite, from what I understand. What I did see, though, is the marketing is what put it there. Now, with that in mind, I'm not a great marketer. I'm working on it, getting better. Okay, but one of the things I did do, so many people that are doing these streams, okay, and I don't know what the term is for it, but so many say, hey, I've got a secret for you to help you change your life. Stick around, listen to the end of the video, and I'll give you that piece of information. Well, newsflash. This book, Believe in Yourself and Follow Your Dreams, this contains the backbone of what I did to take my world and go from being extremely reclusive with absolutely a shambles of self-esteem. Okay, honestly, never got to the point of being suicidal. But this neat little book, you'll notice it's really small. Okay, all of these books, I've got 3 of them in print right now, currently working on the 4th. They all are going for literally $20 Canadian in your pocket. Okay, in your mailbox. That's including shipping to anywhere in Canada or the continental US. The rest of it I've got to look into. But if you go to the screen, if you go to the top of the chat, you'll see a Buy Me a Coffee link. That is where you can buy any of the books I've got. I'm not selling on Amazon right now. I run into way too many complications. Not going to go into that. But I will tell you, I'm building an empire. I am looking at this going, we've got a world with a phenomenal future. Okay. The neat thing about it is this world, we can take it and we can go, okay, we can work together and pool our resources, pool our efforts, and we can make this world better. Or we can focus on, oh, the world's going to end. We're all going to hell. We're going to starve to death. And, here, by the way, here's a pill. You can take this. You'll drop the weight like that. Take this little gizmo. You don't have to make any effort at all. And you can get in the best shape of your life. Or here's a pill to build muscle. I'm telling you, old-fashioned thinking. Maybe I don't get it. Mathematics is easy. You desire to drop weight. It's simple. Put less calories into your body than what you burn. You desire to gain weight. Sit and do nothing and put a whole pile of calories into your body. You'll put on weight. Sometimes it's necessary. But when you sit there, when you're sitting there and there are so many ads that come out and say, oh, here's a new food that's really good for you. Great. It's great. It doesn't have all the added sugars. It doesn't have added food coloring. On the other hand, it's got all these additives that virtually nobody can pronounce. And I was always told, and this didn't work well for me, by the way, I was always told, never put anything into your stomach that you can't pronounce. Well, my vocabulary, in spite of the doctors declaring me mentally retarded, is a little complicated. But take a look at it. Now, Joseph is just suggesting equitable resources will ensure our future. Okay, absolutely. He goes on to say your support matters in creating a fair, just, and sustainable society. Now, here's the thing. For those of you that are intent on this idea of we have to boycott this company or we have to overthrow this country, understand there's a book out there by Orson Welles. I think it was written back in the 80s. I'm not entirely certain. Might have been before that. Called Animal Farm. If you desire to see what happens if we just categorically overthrow a management system and replace it with people we know, the odds are, unless somebody turns the lights on and says, this is what's got to be done. Okay. If nobody points it out, the same mistakes are going to be turned around. Yeah, LA goes, they thought Thomas Edison was learning disabled. They have trouble seeing people who are phenomenally intelligent. I keep looking in the mirror and I keep getting told by people all sorts of things. But I look in the mirror, I don't see anything special here. I absolutely will tell you, I have a mouth on me. I am very opinionated. I just bite my tongue a lot. Okay, which is amazing given the shape of my teeth. But the thing is, it's a matter of common sense in my eyes. Now, that's one of the most endangered species in existence in my idea, my eyes. But if you're looking at people, if you desire to be treated decently, if you desire people to be honest with you, you have to be honest with them. The reality is it may not guarantee you get treated well, but it certainly won't hurt. Now, I look at these companies that go, we've got all this food, and I see it in grocery stores. We've got all this surplus, and some genius, at least up here, I don't know what your country's like, or your city for that matter, but up here, I'm in Kelowna, BC. Okay, and there is apparently a law that some genius politician pushed through, and the rest of them voted for it and made it happen. Where if grocery stores have food that is not, that isn't gone bad, okay, if it's going to be thrown out, they're not allowed, in my understanding, and maybe this has changed recently, but they weren't allowed to take that food down to the shelters or down to the things like the food bank or the SPCA. They couldn't take this food. They had to destroy it and throw it in the garbage. And then they're turning around and people go, but we've got a shortage of food. No, you've got an excess of waste. Okay. And, I'd apologize for it, but, for saying that, but it's the way I see it. It's like when I walk into a restaurant. If I walk into a restaurant, this applies directly to any of you that literally own your own restaurant. If I walk into a restaurant personally, I sit down, I get good service and what have you. Let's say I get the best service I've ever had. When I get the bill, if the bill says mandatory 1%, even if it's mandatory 1% tip, I will never set foot in that restaurant again. Okay, tips are designed to let the customer decide, is that particular waiter or waitress doing a good job? Okay, the tips are not designed to pay your staff, period. I had a client come to me one day. By the way, I do agree with you, LA. That's criminal, throwing that much food away. I mean, it is amazing how much gets dumped. But it's a matter of people go, people complain about it. Sometimes it's the politicians. The stupidest lawsuit I ever heard of happened about 30 years ago now. Okay, now we got to paint the picture properly here. Driving impaired, meaning something else is on your mind other than driving. Okay, is illegal. Now, this begs the question, if you're not allowed to be distracted, why, pray tell, do you have a radio in the car? I'm just looking and I'm just stunned here, Joseph. Joseph is saying, Joseph Lorenzen here in the chat room is saying, unfortunately, there are even restaurants here in town where the staff pays to work there. Why in tarnation would you pay to work for somebody? Okay, to me, this does not make any sense. Okay, and getting back to the restaurant I was dealing with, he phones me up and he goes, we've got, me and my brother have a restaurant. We're trying to open up a second one. Okay. He says, but I'm losing staff and customers. What am I supposed to do? Like, how can I correct it? So I asked him 2 questions. I said, number 1, what is the average cost of living in the town you're in? So he gave me an answer. I said, 2, not including tips. How much are you, what are these people being paid an hour? So he gives me the answer. I did some quick calculations on the calculator. And yeah, we got computers all over the place and cell phones and the whole 9 yards. I still prefer a solar powered calculator. So I ran some numbers. I looked at him and I said, double their wage. He goes, what do you mean double their wage? I said, well, take a look at what the wage is. Add that much again to it. Okay, you want to keep your staff, you'll double the wage. He said, well, they get tips. I said, look, you never rely on the store, on the customer to support your staff. You desire to hang on to the staff, double their wage, and let them keep their tips. Let the tipping happen in a functional fashion. Now, there are all sorts of things that can be done. But this guy, he says, he did what I suggested. Next thing I know, things are starting to move for him. He writes me a letter 13 years later, and I'm in contact with him all the time through this. He writes me a letter. He goes, when I first met you, I thought you were right off your nut. He says, my brother and I went to business school to learn how to run a business. He says, the only reason I did what you told me is because everything we tried failed. He goes, here I am 13 years later. I now own 7 restaurants, 2 of which are in strip malls that we own. Right. And I will tell you, if you're running into a problem, I have decided I am going to go back into opening that door for consulting. Only I'm not charging $150, $170 an hour. I'm not charging $1,000 an hour. Okay. I have been legitimately paid $2,600 an hour for what I do. But I only charge $20 for 15 minutes. Okay. It's that simple. Because the people that require the assistance, frankly, don't have $1,000. Now I've dealt with consulting now literally since I was 10, but professionally since I was 23. I've been generating an income. Now, am I opening that door again? Absolutely. Am I opening the door as far as energetic healing goes and health issues on that end? Yeah, I am. I had a massive wake-up call when I was down in Reno. I had somebody come to me that was an absolute mess. And we saw firsthand the speed that health can change. If, number 1, the practitioner knows what they're doing, and much more importantly, if the recipient is willing to let it happen. Now, I can give you all the tools in the world that I own. Okay. They're absolutely useless if you don't pick up the tools. Now, when you take a look at the big companies, okay. Now, I've never had anybody explain, and I see that, Joseph. Joseph is going, they stay for huge tips. The sad part is, if somebody desires a staff to work for them, there's all kinds of neat little tricks that can be done that will work better than underpaying, or than having your staff go, "Oh, I'm going to pay to work for you." I don't know about you, but I don't pay to work for anybody. Okay. Now, granted, in this case, I moved into retirement. We'll use the term retirement a little loosely. But, apparently writing 33 books at the same time, concurrently, isn't called retirement. But I do have to get off my tail feathers. I've got my office now. As I mentioned, get the clutter out of the office, get it moving so the energy can do what it should. When you go into a corporation, into the big box stores, for instance, how many times do you talk to a staff member there and you ask for the location of something and they go, "I don't know." Okay. The reason I suggest, there's two reasons. I strongly suggest supporting your local businesses. Okay. Those reasons are very simple. Okay. Number one, your big box companies. Okay. If their head office is in the city you're in, absolutely it makes sense to go into them. They buy things at a lower rate. You can get them theoretically less expensively. But if you're in a small town, you got a big box store in there, do your best to support the locals, because when you're buying from the smaller companies, the money stays in the area. Okay, that's how you bolster your own economy, not by shipping the money back to the Middle East or back into China. I'm telling you, you desire the community around you to grow. Talk to your governmental and industry leaders. Talk to them about bringing the manufacturing home. The reality is, when enough people, when people start actually pushing the idea of bring our work back to us, okay, you don't, and the thing is, finances cannot be the goal. Well, it can be, but you're seeing what's happening to society. Now, I've talked quite often about this funny little thing. Okay, and I know you can't read it, but I keep a list here all the time. And just to give you an idea, so I can look back on it as well. I go over here. Okay, this little, this little list here. Okay, on it, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 13 things on this list, 12 of which are completed. And what I've done, so I'll be able to look back on it later. And this book is chock full of my lists that I've completed. Okay, this one covers from January to March, right? I'm working now on April to June, and then I've already got set up July to September. Okay, but this way I can look at it and go, okay, I'm telling you, I am suggesting, now you can do what you please. I am suggesting you take a list and put it together. Keep 3 things on the list. And by the way, I tell this to the big companies as well. Okay, I keep telling people the same rule applies to running a household as it does to running a business, to running a intercontinental business, to running a country. The rules are still the same. Now, I missed something here, Joseph. Joseph's got it. It's a huge misconception. I'm not sure which part's a misconception. I mean, Lord knows, I'm not perfect by any means, which is why I've laid out things and said, okay, this is what I desire to see happen. Unfortunately, I'm very aware that I do not have all the skills necessary to make things happen the way I desire. Okay. Well, that being said, I know Storm is on it already. If you didn't say that, Joseph, then we've got a problem in here. And I appreciate you pointing it out that it wasn't yours. See, it's this kind of behavior that shows, even with with our best efforts, every now and again, we get a genius in here that whose mind, in my opinion, is way too small for its own good. Okay, somebody want to deal with this genius? I've got a lot of tolerance for people that have what I consider legitimate ignorance. In other words, true ignorance is this: you don't know any better for whatever reason. You haven't figured it out. Okay, but deliberately impersonating somebody else there's no ignorance there. It is just plain self-centeredness, and I'm not impressed. Okay. Now, I know the Storm is going to sort this one out because, frankly, it's this kind of behavior that is leading the world into an absolute tailspin. Okay. Like I said, I'm not known to be soft-spoken. I bite my tongue a lot more than I should. And if you go back, and some of you remember, about 3-4 months back, I'm guessing, it was a problem, that resulted in my having a heart attack. I don't have any tolerance for it anymore. I got way too much to do here, and especially with the way I'm looking at this world going. Okay, the reality of it is that we have, and we've got a chance where we can do what's being shown. So many people say when I first started this, people were saying there are trolls out there, and I'm thinking now you got to remember, I play D&D, I play Dungeons and Dragons. Thank you so much, Storm. I'm presuming you figured out who the genius was, and I know you've dealt with it. So, and this is exactly why I've got Storm sitting there. But the sad reality of it is, when I first heard about trolls, okay, the only ones I knew about were about 9 feet tall and regenerated like there was no tomorrow. Okay, but I don't have tolerance for them. And just to be clear, all the apologies in the world, if you make a legitimate miscalculation, if you didn't know that what you were doing was a problem, and for whatever reason, I mean, for instance, I have legitimate ignorance where it comes to technology. It doesn't add up well. Valerie, how you doing? Glad you could join us. This is why, like, I spent a long time talking to Storm to make sure that we're both on the same page. He knows what I'm here for. Okay, Storm and LA know exactly what I'm here for. Okay. Now, I'm just going to ask you point blank, Storm, and I don't. If you desire to not answer it here, and just text me or what have you, let me know. But every time this genius comes in here, he creates a problem. Oh, Joseph, you're saying it wasn't you was absolutely the easiest thing, the best thing you could have done. But I do agree with you. Stepping out of it so that the Storm could find him was perfect. But I look at these big corporations and I see it all the time. If you watch YouTube right now, there are so many little ads coming.
Hey, Keith.
Well, hello.
Let me go ahead and address this with the individual that was in chat. Uh,
Absolutely.
I I have ways of searching and looking at the various members in chat. I know your base account. I know when you subscribed, and I also know when you changed your login or changed your screen name to be somebody different. Fortunately, I've known Joseph Lawrence for a very long time, and I know how long he's been a member of YouTube. And when somebody says they're him and they can't make that qualification, no, they're gone.
Yeah.
So that was Dean Paul that we saw
Yeah.
before, and he is now permanently hidden from the channel, and he was put in timeout for 24 hours on top of it. So
Okay.
that is what I'll let everybody know. That is exactly what I do to people who mess around with this channel. Now, I will also tell you, if this happens to you, you can listen, but you will not be able to interact in chat. Simple as that. That being said, Keith, back to you.
Thank you so much, Storm. I really do appreciate it. The fact of the matter is, guys, if you're running a small business, if you're running a house, there is no question, in my eyes anyway, you'll have rules in your house that you desire people to follow. With this in mind, it is imperative when you go to somebody else's house, somebody else's business, you follow the rules they have. Okay. I don't, I look at this world going, why I literally will sit here going, why am I bothering to try? So many people, and I will get to the answer. So many people I watch do things like what this genius just did. And to what end? Okay, really, to what end? Other than societal collapse. Now, the reality is, like I said, I returned to this world again. I've been here multiple times. You can believe me or not, that's your call. But I've come here with the same message, lifetime after lifetime. Working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I do not expect people in this chat room to believe everything I say, because 90% of the proof that you're looking for comes about 30 years down the road. Okay, and you get to figure out how to deal with that. But the reality is, we take a look at some of these big box companies. They hire people, they pay them minimal, and they don't educate them on even the layout of their own store. Okay, now I go into a big box company, and it's completely devoid of staff support. When I go into a small local store, never mind they know you by name, they know the layout of the store. And this is why I'm so adamant about going, okay, in this chat room, there are rules. Here's what they are. They apply to everybody. Okay. And yes, in the past, I ended up taking every moderator, and because of the troll situation we had, I disconnected every one of the moderators. I shut them all down. Okay. Then I picked the three that I knew absolutely were on the money. Okay. And that would be Storm, LA Moon, and Nathan. I've talked to them personally. I know who they are. And I put them back in place so I didn't have to deal with it. Okay. If you're running a store, now, whether it's a store or a restaurant, doesn't matter. You're running a business. The way you treat your staff will determine how your staff treats your customers. And if it doesn't, you fire the staff. Okay. The thing is, the big box companies so often treat people like a number. You're a number, that's all you are. Okay. Now, that may not be how they're thinking, but that is how it comes across. When we take a look at the world leaders, okay, I mean, we're looking country, okay, nobody has been able to give me a viable answer. I mean, yes, there's this neat little idea of, oh, they just want the money. Okay, that's great. But why call that a world leader? If it's a world leader that is abusing the people in that's supposed to be taken care of, is this somebody that you're going to look up to? What do you think would happen? Just a thought. If I all of a sudden started calling people in this chat room and going, okay, so-and-so, you are such a useless piece of work. What would happen to the subscriptions here if I started doing that to everybody? Okay, I got nothing against, this Dean Paul that was just in here. I got nothing against him personally or her. I don't know. Okay, in today's world, the names don't matter much as far as that goes. But I am appalled by the behavior. Okay, it's something that doesn't make sense to me. One of the biggest things we have to look at is if you desire your community, the safety in your community to climb, it's time to start talking to people. Okay. It's time to start talking to your neighbors. Get to know who they are, what their interests are. It's a weird thing. You stand up, you talk to them, and all of a sudden you got a conversation going. It's weird. I know it's weird because I do it all the time. And I'm reclusive. Okay. Now, granted, since I came back from Reno, I barely left the house. But then I overextended myself, and financially things are annoying. Yeah, sadly, Joseph, sadly in my case, and hopefully this is you, Joseph, I know knowing Storm it is, but I discovered in Reno, I actually don't register altitude change. I know, in all fairness, now, well, Storm, it does look like you got your work cut out for you tonight. There's a comment in here, and I'm presuming, Joe, that this is you. And Joe Stewart, that is. I honestly haven't followed the war that's going on at all. What I do know, where are we here? Let's take a look at refresh. Oh, I haven't paid attention to the war that's going on at all. It was weird. I was talking to somebody, I think it was Storm, who said there's fewer now than there were a decade ago. But unfortunately, IQs still seem to be dropping. Now, what have we got here? Oh, there we are, 12. There we go. Thanks so much, LA. The sad reality is this. We've got people here that again are coming into the room now. I heard somebody tell me one day, okay, that if you're not upsetting somebody, you're doing it wrong. I've got no interest in upsetting people. Okay, I've got no interest in it at all. Number one, I'm a full empath. Okay, so call me selfish, but I don't like the disruption. It causes way too many problems. But when we look at a country that is going, I'm a world leader. It's time to start running a leader quality that is above the others, not continually going, let's have another war. Let's have starvation across the board. Okay, this doesn't work well. I do. I do in my journal. I do a journal daily. Okay, I don't call it a gratitude journal. I literally just write down what comes to mind. Usually, I do it first thing in the morning. I am curious now that I've got that can of worms open. My filing cabinet's over here out of range, out of sight of you guys. Yep. I've got my journal. I've got a journal I do daily. I don't call it a gratitude journal. Where are we here? Oh, Joe, if there's anything that we know, you've been around long enough. Most of the people in this chat room are phenomenal. Okay, and the amount of support I've gotten and I've received from you guys has been incredible. As a matter of fact, it's been that way because of one little detail. Okay, because of one little issue. And that is, I keep getting people, when I talk about shutting this down, I get all kinds, I get all kinds of people dropping me personal emails going, no, please don't shut it down. It is in deference to you guys that stops me from shutting this down. But I argue all the time with myself. I put the effort in. We've got billions of people being told, sit on your backside, do nothing, use the gizmo, give me lots of money because all these other major industries are corrupt. So give me all your money. And, it's a limited time deal because I don't know how long they're going to leave it here. It's not a question in my eyes. People are using that as a catchphrase. Okay. I tell you it's going on that this item is no longer going to be available. Okay. What ends up happening is all of a sudden people go, oh, we got to run down to the store. We got to hit that button and buy it now. Here's a news flash for you. Okay. Now, these little books, okay, these are literally tools, very small, very easy to replicate. Okay, I'm not planning on stopping producing them, which means I'm not telling you, somebody's going to take this book and pull it off the market. Not going to happen. Okay, the reality of it is, this is designed. You'll notice it says, believe in yourself and follow your dreams. This is designed to give you the tools, the same ones I personally use, to turn your life around from wherever it is. Yeah, and this is why, again, Storm's in the chat room right now, letting us know that he is right there. Okay. And Storm knows my interaction with technology isn't a good one. Okay, we have yet to figure out a way around it. But the tools I offer are literally available and they're not stopping. Okay, that link at the top of the chat room that says buy me a coffee. It's the only place you can get a hold of these. Well, it's not the only place. You can contact me directly. Okay. But I'm not on Amazon. I'm not on any of the major companies because every one of them does similar things. But I've had problems with major moguls that have absolutely cost me thousands of dollars in trying to get things moving. So I just quit, and I'm working on on the small side. The thing we have to realize is like what Joe Stewart and Joseph Lanson did. If you see something come up in your name, absolutely, immediately, let us know that wasn't you. As soon as you spot it, let us know. The reality is, I've talked to Storm, and Storm sits in the back an awful lot, just watching these geniuses come in, because there is a staggering number of them. But here's the thing. I am still a firm believer that 90 to 95% of the population are decent people. It's just this small group, 5 to 10% of the population, that are, in my opinion, very immature, very childish, very self-serving. And honestly, even people like that, you want to come into the room and follow the rules. I don't care what your past is. Okay, I do question the intelligence behind walking in. And behind somebody walking in going, hey, by the way, I was the guy that came in here and was trolling you. Okay, absolutely a bizarre thought in my eyes. If you're doing something wrong, absolutely keep it quiet. Okay, and don't get me wrong. I've made my mistakes, and there are things I've done in the past that I am not only not proud of, but appalled at. But I'm not telling you what they were. Okay, I'm not telling anybody what they were. The reality is those little everybody's got skeletons in their closet. Okay. I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer had a lot of them, but that's another issue. Okay. But the reality of it is this. My secrets, the ones that I'm not happy with, I'm not telling anybody. And I've already told my other half. I'm not telling them. Okay. Now, what? What are you hiding from? Why, why won't you tell people what you did wrong? If you're that honest with people, why wouldn't you be that honest? To what end? What good would it do? Okay. I'm just not interested in it. And therefore, my boundary is simple. If I say it here and you ask me a question, absolutely I'll give you as honest an answer as I can. I will tell the same thing. I told it to a banker. Now, remember, bankers are there to make the bank money. Okay. That's what a bank manager is there for. Not to make you money, to make the bank money. You've got to be aware of this. Well, you don't have to be. A lot of people walk around with their head in the clouds, going, I didn't know it was going on. I won't argue with you. It probably didn't. There's a lot of things that I found out. Okay, and yes, my view on the world is twisted. If you're running a company, it is imperative, no matter the size of the company, it is imperative you figure out two things. One, what do you consider success? That's the first thing you got to figure out. How big a company do you desire to make this? Now, right now, I'm looking at my subscription level. I've got 619, so we're up one today. Okay, but I intend on becoming an international concern. I don't like going out in public, but I've come to the conclusion I'm going to have to. Okay, and it's the same with you guys. If you desire to be successful, absolutely imperative that you figure out what you consider success. Now, money has never been the driving force behind what I do. Okay, but I will tell you, everything I do on this live stream, everything I write in my free, in our free newsletter is free. Okay, the consulting, the healings, and bear in mind, I will keep people posted on where and when I'm going to be in the location. Okay, and on that location, if I'm going to be there, if somebody desires me to come and talk at a conference, absolutely talk to me. I've gone to conferences where I kid you not. Now, my specialty is self-help and alien races, ancient races. Okay, those are my two fortes. I am not an expert in either one. Okay, but I've listened to countless people tell me, "Oh, I'm I'm an expert in this field." And when I listen to what they're talking about, I'm like, "How can you possibly call yourself an expert?" That the reality is, I'm not perfect. I do not know everything. If I did, rest assured, I wouldn't still be on this planet. I got a lot of other things that I'd like to get done. But when we take a look at the leaders, at the world leaders, okay, take any city, okay, any city of any size, you're probably, and I'm just ballparking it, I'm betting only 5 to 10% of the population of any city actually works directly for the government. Okay, this means 90 to 95% of you don't. Okay, you work for yourselves and you have to deal with the laws that are passed. If the government you're working with is not doing a job in an equitable fashion, overthrowing the government is just plain stupid. Okay, but getting involved in the government, if you've got the tolerance for it, okay, getting involved in the political field, if you've got the tolerance for it, is the best move. If you don't have the tolerance for it, talk to the people that do and put your input into it. But if you're working in a political field, when somebody turns around, it's just my opinion, when somebody turns around, and from what I gather, major corporations are notorious for this. "Oh, we'll fund your campaign if you push this bill through." Do not sell your integrity. Okay. If you've got an idea of something you would like to happen, do not sell yourself out on your integrity. I've got some very specific plans in mind for my company, for Inner Voice Enterprises, for Positive Perceptions, which is this live stream, and for Positive Perspectives. Now, I get a lot of different emails from people saying, "Oh, you should do this, it'll grow faster." It's not the speed of the growth that matters to me. It's the impact on the individual in a positive fashion that is going to matter. Okay. And, I do take the input in. So if you've got an idea, absolutely drop me a line. Okay. I will compare it to what I've got planned and make sure that things are going in the right direction. The biggest thing we have to realize, I know I don't make everybody happy here. This is just the reality behind it. One day I will put out a list. Actually, I should probably do that on one of the upcoming editions of Positive Perspectives, of what my goal actually looks like. Because am I asking you guys for your input? You bet your bottom dollar I am. Unless you hadn't, and in case you hadn't noticed, I'm not the only person on the planet. No government leader, no political leader anywhere is more important than the person that's living on the street. As a matter of fact, in my opinion, if you got a government that is not taking care of the homeless, they are not doing their job. Now, granted, some people are on the street because they chose to be there. Okay, that does happen. And no amount of legislation will ever stop that. But when we are absolving people from their responsibilities, okay. Now, I've done things in the past in employing jobs that I frankly should have been fired for. No, I'm not going to tell you what they are or what they were, is more to the point. But I will tell you, if it weren't for the extreme generosity of my boss at the time, okay, I would have been fired. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why I take a look at what's going on here and go, okay, if you've done something wrong, okay, certainly acknowledge it to yourself. I don't need you coming back in. Nobody requires you coming back in and going, hey, I was the idiot that did this. Okay, just don't repeat it. I have no doubt about that at all, Joseph. And just to be clear before I address that, I have always held great esteem for the people that choose to step into your first responders, into the military, in order to protect their families, to protect their community, to protect their country. I've always held them in great esteem. Again, the military wouldn't take me. Something about epileptics and automatic weapons. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't good enough overkill, but I look at the vets, and one day I'll deal with it head on. But I look at the people that are veterans that put time into their country, regardless of what country. I'm not talking about, oh, I think one country is better than the next. I don't. I really don't. But people that follow their heart and step into the country, into the military, to go to work to protect their country, no matter whether you agree with their philosophies, doesn't matter to me. Okay, but those people should not be living on the street. They should already. That should be part of the issue of you put your time in with the government, with the military to protect the country. Why in blue blazes have the governments not turned around and said, okay, instead of telling a politician that, hey, you spent 4 years in office, we're going to give you $200,000 a year for life. Okay, you, on the other hand, your military, you put 20 years putting your life physically on the line so that I don't have to worry about it. Why in tarnation are you not given subsidized housing? As in, we're just going to house you. It should be, in my opinion, a case of you went into the military, you put your life on the line, especially in times when some genius says, hey, let's go to war because I don't like that person. Okay, the veterans should be taken care of. This should not be a case of, oh, I'm sorry, you're on the street. And before anybody jumps on it, let's hit that other nasty little annoyance. That thing called stolen valor. For the cowards, and I will say cowards, that decide they're going in, I'm going to claim I was in the military so I can get special treatment. These people are, in my opinion, second only to bullies. They are the biggest cowards on the planet. Okay. And no, I don't feel these people should be put in a modern prison. Okay. They should not get free housing. They should not be given 3 square meals a day and all their medical because they broke the law. These people don't deserve that kind of treatment. Now, that's my own personal opinion. And it has no reflection on anybody or any one of the people in this chat room or my moderators. It is strictly mine. And yeah, I know that's going to tick somebody off. You know, when we're looking at leadership, ask yourself this: the people you're following, okay, absolutely make certain that in your eyes, they are doing what they talk about. Now, the other side of that, of course, is, if I ever say something that doesn't make sense, absolutely ask. I will do my best to clarify. Okay, because God knows I've on occasion opened my mouth, put my foot in it all the way to the hip. You know, you know, there are so many things that governments, that the moguls can do differently. Let's start at the bottom end of this, okay? We look at a household. You've got rules. Now, let's say you've got the rule in your house that you take your shoes, that people take their shoes off upon entry. Okay, absolutely. If you've got rules, I can virtually guarantee you desire them to be followed, whether it's by your kids or by visitors. Doesn't matter. But if you're going to put rules in and expect other people to follow them, does it not make sense that you should be following the rules that 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 other people put in? Just about had to slap myself in the back of the head so I could quit stuttering like that. You know, I had long ago gone, I'm not dealing with the big complications because they are too big to turn around. And I got sitting here and got told just last night actually, it's time for me to step completely out of the shadows and go, okay, enough is enough. Yeah, go and sit down in a church. Absolutely, there is a phenomenal amount of brotherhood there. But ask yourself, if you're going to a church, is the person running the church is the person running the church, that you're listening to, are they following their own guidelines? Are they following what they're telling you? In my case, I've told you, I consistently tell people, use this funny little list. Okay, I keep it handy because it works. That's why I use it. Okay, if I'm going to tell you, I will do what I can when I get into a location. Okay, if I'm not coming down on holidays, right, and I'm coming, like, let's say, for instance, somebody does come to me and go, will you come down and speak at this convention? I will absolutely do so if it's at all possible. And I will let people know I'm going to be here. Therefore, if you're looking for a direct, energetic reboot, absolutely talk to me. I don't do it for free anymore. Okay. Now, there are extenuating circumstances. Okay. Quite often I'll tell people, this is what the bill is. And, do what you can. Because energy out, energy in. When you're doing something, even if it is a natural ability, you have to have a return on it. And the reality is, if I don't generate income somewhere, I run into a problem. Now, I look at this. I currently am on, finally, after 37 years of waiting, I'm finally on disability. Okay. But with that, I spend, I take a look at it and go, okay, I'm on the air 10 hours a week. Okay. I don't charge for what I do here. This is my way of giving back to the community. Okay. And any tools I offer, absolutely put them to use if you can. Well, yeah, Joseph, and this is one of the problems with the military. Okay, it's one of those funny things that didn't make sense. Joseph is just telling us vets have problems that make it difficult to go into government assisted housing when rules are just follow them. Rules have to be consistent for all people. Okay, if they are not, okay, we have a problem. Now, you know, here's what we end up with. Okay, this is why I've got Storm and LA in doing the moderating. Here's the way it works. If we have another moderator in that causes a problem, Storm in LA will deal with it. I know this without even thinking about it. But, and here's something I just don't worry about. If Storm or LA were to create a problem, my only recourse, because I don't know technology, and I don't worry about these guys. Okay. If I did, I wouldn't be going down to see them shortly. If they created a problem, my only recourse would be close the stream and walk away. And that'd be the end of it. Fortunately, I don't have to worry about that. You know, we talked about this the other day there, Joseph. You know, when we look at rules in society, if they are not applicable to everybody at every level, if they are not the same, what's going to end up happening is society will fracture and a new culture will start. Okay. If that culture does not have laws and rules of conduct that apply to everybody, then what you end up with is another fracture. Now, get this, and I'm gonna throw a wrench into things. According to what I found on the internet, do not take my word for this. Look it up yourself. According to what I found on the internet, the Christian religion that is supposed to be unified. We all worship one God. He loves everybody. Okay. He came here to save you from your sins, etc., etc. If that was run properly, why in blue blazes are there, according to the internet, 45,000 different denominations? And why, according to the internet, does the Christian religion control 55% of the finances in the world? Okay. And while that's going on, if they are supposed to be taking care of the sick, the ill, the spiritually misguided, why do we have so many people living on the street with the church's doors closed? I'm just asking because I'm totally confused on it. Aside from greed, self-centeredness, debauchery, you get the picture. You know, and no, I'm having to be, I keep having to take a step back here because I'm pretty certain if I keep going down that road, Storm's going to have a bigger problem than idiots. Well, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day's been going well. The neat part about this is we're sitting in a world that has a staggering amount of potential. The question is, are we going to bother working with it and fostering a better world? Okay. Oh, whoa. Bad news for you. I cannot get a hold of you the fact of the matter is, what do we got? I know you wanted to talk. From what I gather, you wanted to talk. Well, this is great, but I cannot get a hold of you. I can't leave a message, and because you don't have a way to do so. So it's going to have to be a question of you text me when you're ready, and that's just the way it's gonna work. Oh, look at that. We froze up. Probably my doing. I think I should wait. There we go. Absolutely, this can be. Yeah, I don't have a problem with not having, the funny thing is, well, I got voicemail and I ignore 3/4 of it. Okay, and this is why I say, if you drop me a line, okay, if you text me and ask me to call you, okay, assuming I'm not on the air or tied up in another job, I will phone you right back. I don't put a lot of weight behind movies and what have you. If I'm in the middle of a movie, okay, but let's be clear about one thing for all of you. When people say, I don't want to interrupt what you're doing, I am always, always, always doing something. Okay. I mean, you think about it. I'm working on a free newsletter. I've got the live stream that's got to be organized. I'm concurrently writing 33 books at this point. Okay. And of course, I'm removing clutter from my life. There is very rarely a time when I'm not busy doing something, but I'm always doing 5 or 6 things at once minimum. The neat part about this is I intend on turning the world on its ear, because I'm looking at this going, I'm building an empire. That's the way that is. Okay, this is just the way I'm doing things. Am I going to say I'm better than everybody? I'm not better than anybody. I'm barely as good as myself. Okay, but am I stubborn? You bet. Okay, but that being stubborn is actually what keeps me alive, I think. But I've got very definitive goals, very definitive markers on what I'm aiming for. What have we got? See, now, I would love to see in the chat room. I would love to see this. We've got 12 in the chat room right now. No, we've got 12 watching right now. I would love to see that, as we've got 150, 200 people, 1 million people listening. I absolutely would love it. The reality of it is, it's not about the numbers. 2,000 years ago, one guy came along, depending on the religion you follow, one guy came along and said, hey, be nice to each other. Okay, that's essentially all he said. He turned around, 12 people joined hands with him, not perfectly. Okay, maybe, it may not have been perfect. 12 people gave him a hand. Here we are 2,000 years later, and mankind has taken that teaching and completely turned it upside down. And the reason I say that is the number of churches that sit empty while homeless people sit empty at night, while the homeless are freezing to death on the streets. This is, in my eyes, just flat out wrong. Okay, I don't care who they are. Now, with that in mind, when we take a look at that side of it, that was 2,000 years ago. 12 people made this happen. In this chat room alone, we have 619 listed as subscribers. That's a whole pile more than 12. Okay. Now, if 12 people could do it then, with no internet, no radio, no technology, they only had word of mouth. Why are we sitting on our tail feathers and letting this world continue to crumble, continue to promote prejudice, sloth, avarice, debauchery? Why are we paying attention to this and letting the people that are supposedly guiding us guide us down that road? Now, I'm not saying I'm the best. Matter of fact, I'm probably one of the most outspoken and least researching individuals available. The one thing, I'm looking at Swoosh just going, maybe a radio broadcast is in your future. It is possible, but the problem is what I've got to get out. Most radios, they've got this thing, oh, we've got this doctrine. You can't say this, you can't say that. YouTube has the same thing. And this is why I say, you talk to me in person, I will undoubtedly tell you what I'm thinking. Okay. There are certain questions I won't answer, but you'll find those out. I'm just straightforward. I'm not answering. You know, one of the biggest things that we have to look at is the people that you're following, the people that you're saying, hey, there's the one I'm going to follow. The one thing I found is when you've got an image, okay, if you're a leader, and it literally means whether you're a leader because you're a politician, a business owner, a broadcaster, a Hollywood superstar, what your image is, the way you behave, is not going to survive well if, when you go out in public, you start disregarding everybody else and treating them like garbage. You know, I know of a couple of Hollywood actors that came from Canada, okay, and everybody says, oh, they're fabulous actors. But when they went to the States and success got to them, they became apparently some of the biggest dipsticks on the planet. I've seen the same thing happen with politicians, with media personalities. Myself, I was a dipstick to start with. Thank you, LA. I appreciate that. You know, LA fortunately keeps an eye on the time for me. Because I'll tell you, that creates one problem and one big problem from my end. Now, will I, you know, again, looking at this whole thing, especially where religion is concerned, okay, we started talking about the Vatican on Nathan's show. That's one of those deep little topics. I've got my own view on it. And in Nathan's case specifically, okay, I will sit down and bring him up to speed on his own. Well, actually, in all fairness, Nathan, I was talking to Storm earlier, and Storm in LA, you and I, when we can arrange it, and it's got to be on your schedule, it's got to be a combination of schedules, but we will sit down and bring you up to speed. It's not that and I've got to keep it a secret from everybody. It's a question of I'm not dumb enough to put myself in the middle of a shotgun site. You know, the reality is nobody is here to prove anything. What you are all here to do, whether you are a pauper, a multi-millionaire, a billionaire, it doesn't matter. Okay? It really doesn't matter. Every one of you is here for literally the same purpose, to find out who and what you are, to rediscover what you're capable of. This is what your purpose is, regardless of what station you hold in life. This is the same thing I'm here for. The fact I've got memories that date back literally billions of years. Okay. Much of that, and you're going to love this, much of that information will be touched on in the Elderbachian Chronicles. Now, this was written, okay, this is post-apocalyptic. So let's be clear. If thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it, this book details things that happen with the world having completely collapsed. Look out your window. I don't think there's people running around with machine guns in your neighborhood in most cases. Okay. You know, I do agree with you, Joseph. You know, this idea of, and you made a comment one day, I actually put it in the newsletter. You know, I'm not perfect, but I am doing my best. Okay. I am continually looking for a way to try to actually make my life better and thereby, by example, turn the lights on so you guys can see what I've already seen. It's not my responsibility to fix the entire world. I hate to be the one to pop your guys' bubble. The aliens are not coming down to straighten out the world. Okay. AI, Lord help us all, if true AI comes online. What you've got right now is a sophisticated computer program that doesn't feel anything. The moment that gains too much dominance, your world, the world will come to a close. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not a doomsday. I'm not a doomsayer, but the logical solution to many of humanity's problems is not what you're going to like. Just to point that out in a simple factor, we've got these AIs coming up. Now, let me ask you this. If a chunk of property has been determined to only be able to support 10,000 people, and you've got 100,000 people living on it, what is the logical solution to solve that problem? To be sure you can feed everybody on that property. Anybody got an idea? Because in about 3 minutes, I'm going to tell you exactly what the computer will come up with, and you're not going to like it. I'll tell you that right now. But do any of you have any idea at all of how to deal with that problem? The property can only support 10,000 people. Okay, what gets done? The funny part there, Joseph, and like Joseph is just listing off a lot of the religions. And every one of those religions you've listed, Joseph, I've looked into most of them. Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, Buddhism, Sikhism, Judaism, okay, all of them. Absolutely, that's what they claim. And yet, from my understanding, 80% of the wars in history have been waged on the back of one religion or another. And Storman's answering the question. He goes, AI will reduce the population. And you can bet AI will not check who you voted for, won't check who you're crawling into bed with, won't check what color your skin is or who you worship. AI will simply categorically go, you're done. And it will cut the population by 90,000 people. If you get a functional AI, it will give you, let's say, a month to get off the property and find a new place to live. And then the volunteers get to go. And then it will start on one end of the community, and it will categorically wipe out 90,000 people wholesale. That's what AI works with. AI does not take into consideration, but I really like my cat. Doesn't matter to AI. Okay. Should not matter to the law. The law has to apply to everybody. Okay. And this is why I say in this chat room, in our chat room here, and I do call it ours because, yes, I started the stream, absolutely. But I started it because of a repeated request from you guys. Okay. From the people over on Spaced Out Radio. I started doing this because of you. I've kept doing it because of the encouragement that I've received. And frankly, some of the help has been unfathomable, really. And we are down to the 15-minute mark. I appreciate the heads up there, Ellie. I will tell you, if somebody really desires to take a look, not now, I will take a look at religion on anybody else's channel. I'm not going to tear it apart here. Not a prayer. Okay, do I have an opinion on that? Certainly. But it's like I won't tangle with a lot of things. One of the things that we have to look at, no matter who you are, no matter what your station in life, you are a leader. Somebody is following you. Okay. I used to get calls from one girl in particular. She always was worried people were always following her. And the thing was, I asked her, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, they're always, I walk down the sidewalk and they're always following me. I'm always being tracked." I looked and I went, "You're going to a university. People go in the same direction." Okay. But that said, whether you're walking, driving, no matter what you're doing, somebody is following you. And let's clear things up. Okay. We got these neat things. Okay. I am no tech genius. Okay. I can scramble things in a heartbeat without even trying. But some of you were worried about being chipped. You got one of these, you're chipped. Problem solved. Now you can quit worrying about it. Okay. And my eyesight just went out the window. This is always fun. Mind you, it's one of those things that just happens. Now, I will tell you, my outlook on life, I don't relate to people for a lot of reasons. Okay. But I can see what's going on. And will I absolutely turn around and answer questions for you? Certainly. If you desire to get a more in-depth picture of the way I look at things, either contact me directly, or if you run a radio show, a internet show, or a podcast, doesn't matter. Drop me a line. I'm quite willing to come on. I'm quite willing to go to conventions and talk in person. You'll find I'm pretty much the same way. Okay. But I do have my limits of tolerance. Like one t-shirt I've got here. It says, "My people's skills are just fine. It's my tolerance of dealing with idiots that has troubles." Now, I know some people look at it and go, "You can't call people an idiot. They won't like it." Well, I'm an English major. In other words, I learned how to call people an idiot. And secondly, if I feel somebody's being an idiot, in other words, you're doing something you know dang well is wrong, okay, then it doesn't bother me. Okay. If it bothers, like I told one person I used to work with, she complained because I was talking behind her back. I looked at her and I says, I got called in the office because of it. I said, "What do you mean I'm talking to you and behind your back?" "Well," she goes, "you're calling me lazy. You're telling people I don't do my job. I always show up for work late. I whine all the time." I says, "Yeah." "Well, you're talking behind my back." I said, "Let's get something clear. If somebody talks behind your back, in my experience, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, in my experience, if they're talking behind your back, they treat you one way, and they turn around and talk about you in a bad way elsewhere. And here's the neat little kicker to it. She looks at me and goes, "Yeah, that's what I mean." I said, "Look," I said, "first, I'll tell you to your face, you're lazy, you whine a lot, you show up for work late, and you don't do your job. I'll tell you that to your face." "Okay. Well, I don't like when you do that." I said, "Problem solved. Show up for work on time, do your job properly, quit whining about it, and don't be so lazy. Then I won't say that sort of thing." Oh, Steve's going, "You can get topics on religion. You can get topics on religion and politics on many other channels. That's why this is like a breath of fresh air." I appreciate that, Steve. I've never been one to bandy words. I've never been good at the politically correct approach. My problem is, most people, and one of my problems, most people have this thing in their head that goes, Wait a minute. You shouldn't say that. I swear mine's slow. Because mine comes up with, Keith, you really shouldn't have said that. And I'm like, probably not. But on the other hand, now it's out. I don't have to remember what it was. Okay. And no, I do not have an eidetic memory. In other words, I don't remember, or more to the point, I don't recall everything I say. But because I refuse to lie to make things sound better, I don't have to think about what I said. Okay. It was funny, minus sidetrack. I was playing a character in Dungeons and Dragons. A little bit rough around the collar, but you gotta realize he was a dwarf. And he was a volatile one. But the constabulary pulled him over and goes, "You've been accused of hitting Lord so-and-so." And he looks at the cop and he goes, "Is the guy still alive?" The cop goes, "Well, yeah." I said, and then so my character looks at me and goes, "Then I didn't hit him." And that was where the conversation ended. In my case, ask me for my input. I will give you a direct answer. I won't guarantee you like it, but I will give you a direct answer. Now that said, and we are down to the last 10 minutes, it looks like. But we have a choice. You can blindly follow the leaders that are telling you you need all this junk, all this garbage, all this throwaway stuff. You can listen to the leaders, the so-called leaders, that go, your life is miserable, you're worth less than everybody else. Okay. If you believe in God, by any name, God gave you free will, free choice. What he didn't give you was freedom of consequence. Okay. Now, how do I know this? Well, quite frankly, I had a word with him. You take that where you will. Okay. But I will tell you this. He's not coming down here to pick up a select few of you. He's not coming down here to straighten your mess out. He gave you free will, free choice, and the knowledge and wisdom to straighten your own world out. Get off your tail feathers and quit blaming other people. Take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, is your little part of the world perfect? I look at the room behind me here. Okay, is that all organized properly? Absolutely not. But guess who's responsible for that mess behind me? Do you really think I'm going to blame any one of you guys? Or blame God or the aliens and say, hey, the elites are responsible for that mess. Why don't they come down and clean it? I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, my mom and dad went, you clean the room or we will. And it always worked out badly if we didn't clean our own room. The stuff we really liked would go away, sometimes permanently. Now, the thing is, get a hold of the people you're calling leaders. I strongly suggest that you either if you go to a church, walk into the church, talk directly to the priest, ask him to explain to the congregation why there are homeless on the street, and get past the idea of it's God's will. It's got nothing, and tell them flat out, this is not God's will. God gave you free choice. And this is something that's taught regularly. God did not say, beat the stuffing out of people and ostracize them because they didn't believe in exactly what you were saying. Talk to your politicians. If an area of your neighborhood is sour in your eyes, go talk to City Hall. Go talk to your politicians and start making noise about it. Okay. I'm not talking about overthrowing. I'm talking about accountability. And the same thing applies in your own world. I'm looking at my mess behind me going, that's no longer acceptable. I took another 4 boxes of stuff out of my head. 3 boxes out of my own house today of stuff I don't desire because it was cluttered. I took it out. I didn't wait for somebody else to come in and sort it. You have the same right the same obligation to self. Now is the time to get up and deal with it. Now, with that in mind, I will be back again tomorrow, and we're still going to be looking at the leadership side of things, but tomorrow we're going to take it to all new heights. We're going off-world to some of the empires and the mistakes they've made and show you what happened with them. Okay? And then on Tuesday, we're going to put the creative side to work and show you how to really creatively reclaim power over your life in the immediate time while we are on air, not 6 months down the road. Okay, with that in mind, we are under the 5-minute mark here. So, we do have to bring this to a close. Technically, I don't have to, but we're going to anyway. So I'm going to take this moment out and say thank you very much for sharing your time with us. Really do appreciate it. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't be here at all. It's that simple. So, I will be back again tomorrow. But until then, do take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.